Wherever you are tuning in, welcome to Lake State Media Beyond Boundaries. And in the studio with me today is Gerald Pagan Amum, who most of you missed a lot, and you have been requesting several times that we should bring him back to share his wisdom with the fellow South Sudanese, and also to give us a lot of information in regard to the politics of the SPLM, since the birth of the SPLM in 1983. And Gerald Pagan is here today to lecture us on that note, the legacy of the SPLM. The SPLM during the struggle, Stock SPLA, and the SPLM of current today, while we are having our independent nation as South Sudanese. Not only that, he will also tackle and brief the citizens in regard to the peace talk which was shifted from Rome to Nairobi, Kenya, between the All Out Group and the government of South Sudan, seeing he's a spokesperson on that note. And he will also touch base on the issues of economic crisis in our country in comparison with the elections that the country is looking forward to have in December. These are the few topics of which Gerald Pagana Mom will tackle today, this afternoon, this morning, or tonight, depending the different time zone where you are in. Lastly, to our viewers, I'm requesting you kindly share this live show. If you have 5 groups, share it in those groups so that many citizens will tune in to listen to Gerald Pagan. And on the same note, you'll still have time to ask whatever questions that you want to ask through comment section. And if we have time later on, your question will be pulled off and Gerald Pagan will be in a position to answer you adequately. Lastly, our show, as a reminder, will not take long. We are mindful about your time as the audience, and we are mindful about the crisis too. If you are in South Sudan, we know the MBs are too expensive for 1 hour plus. We will try to minimize our interview, and we will have these meaningful discussions within 1 hour frame time. Thank you so much. Permit me to welcome Gerald Pagan to give us his opening remark before we dive into our conversation. Gerald Pagan, you are welcome, and we are happy as Lagos State Media to host you once again. We don't take it for granted, and this is our duty as South Sudanese to dig information from you. Most of you are the pot of knowledge of that country where South Sudan was founded and the South Sudan we are in today. Welcome and give us your opening remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Majok, for inviting me again to Lagos State Media. Let me greet all your viewers and listeners in the country, in South Sudan, and all over the world. I know this is a very difficult time for us all as South Sudanese. Because our country is going through a major deep national crisis, which is covering all areas of our life. We have a serious economic crisis in the country. We have a political crisis in the country. And the country is threatened as a result of that with disintegration and collapse into chaos. We have to do everything as all South Sudanese to come together to rescue our country and build a peaceful, just, and a prosperous South Sudan for all South Sudanese. So I greet you all, and thank you, Brother Majok and Lagos State Media, for inviting me again.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan. To our viewers, keep sharing it so that it can reach to many people. Gerald Pagan, as you have mentioned critically, that we are at the crossroad as the country. And the decision that South Sudan will make by the end of this year will determine the future of the country. And if we mess up with the December, then South Sudan, to many people, will say it will be in a Somalian way, of which most of us, we don't want that to happen. And in the time of crisis, Gerald Pagan, people always revisit their story And once you know your story, you'll be in a position to determine the future. And basically, that's what we are inviting you today to come and talk to South Sudanese. The first thing before we come back to the current crisis is the genesis and the legacy of the SPLM, of which you have been part of it since your childhood, and up to now you are still in the SPLM. Kindly, can you educate the citizens, the SPLM, the past SPLM, the current SPLM, and the future SPLM? And through that conversation, you will inform us what decisions should the government of South Sudan make before we reach December in order to rescue the country from the crisis, both politically, economically, and also the rumors. As you have mentioned, the country is being threatened by the rumors, disinformation, and miscommunication. The chance is yours, Gerald Pagan. Take your time and give us what is the legacy of the SPLM. What was the SPLM during the struggle, and what is the SPLM currently? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Medit. This is a very huge topic, and I will not go into much details, as you mentioned that this session, this show is going to be not more than 1 hour. The SPLM as a movement, as an organization, is a liberation movement that was established in 1983 when Sudan entered into a crisis with the abrogation and the collapse of Addis Ababa Agreement, which restored peace and ended the First War. President Nimeri, who negotiated and signed the Addis Ababa Agreement with the Anyanya, abolished the Addis Ababa Agreement, divided South Sudan into 3 regions, and South Sudanese also were divided among themselves and were divided by the government of Sudan. And the country was in crisis in the beginning of the 1980s. And before the SPLM establishment, there was Anyanya 2 in the bushes, and a number of armed groups and revolutionary movement sprang up before the SPLM, including our movement, South Sudan National Liberation Front, and by 1983, in May 1983, the government of Sudan attacked its own forces in Bor, Battalion 104 and 105, in Bor, Ayot, and Pibor and Fashala. And that resulted to an exodus of large numbers from the Sudanese army, mostly from the Anyanya officers and men whom were integrated into the Sudanese army, and also very large number of young people, mostly students, but also young people from the countryside, went into the bushes towards the borders with Ethiopia. And from all these various groups, including the groups from the Anyanya 2, the South Sudan Liberation Movement, formed the SPLM, and the leadership of the SPLM was given to Dr. John Garang de Mobile. Of course, there were disputes in the formation of the SPLM in the beginning, and but it settled around Dr. John Garang. Sorry, somebody is calling me. Then the SPLM started organizing by uniting all the various revolutionary and armed groups that sprang up in South Sudan. Generally categorized as a Nyanyatu in Upper Nile, in Bahr Ghazal, and other groups from Equatoria. That is how the SPLM was formed. What was different with SPLM, different from the other movement that sprang in South Sudan and before, including the Anyanya movement, was that this time around the leadership of SPLM, particularly Dr. John Garang de Mobile, put forward a vision articulating the problem of Sudan, what was wrong with Sudan, and how we can address what was wrong with Sudan, with the Sudanese state. That vision scientifically diagnosed the problem of the Sudanese state as a failure of the leadership of Sudan since independence to articulate an inclusive nation and state building project that is inclusive. And this vision, diagnosing the problem and the root causes of the crisis, had put forward that in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural societies and states that emerged out of colonial territories which have been artificially brought together by colonial powers, with boundaries defining rather the zones of influence between the various colonial powers than homogeneity within the state. That became a vision that addressed and provided a platform on how to build a stable and functional, viable state, and how to manage diversity within that state and achieve peace and prosperity. This vision also articulated that to address the problems of Sudan as a whole, you need to build an inclusive state based on the free will of the people. And for South Sudan in particular, given the oppression and marginalization of the people of South Sudan and other marginalized areas in Sudan, like the Nuba Mountains, southern Blue Nile, or the Blue Nile state, it was necessary to give them the right of self-determination. And for them to determine their future in choosing between unity that would be made attractive and inclusive, and Hello?
Yes, Gerald.
Can you? Okay.
Your
Okay.
minute,
I
you
think
can go on.
I I went off for something went wrong with the computer. It's okay now. So the right of self-determination was included in the end through this vision and strategy. The SPLM was able to impose the will of the people of South Sudan on the government of Sudan and on the Sudanese state. And in the end, we signed the CPA, and we were able to also continue with the implementation of the CPA and the exercise of right of self-determination, which happened on the 9th of January 2011. And 6 months later, South Sudan was declared as an independent country. That is an achievement of the people of South Sudan, led by the SPLM, SPLA, and that is the core legacy of the SPLM. Now, the vision of SPLM with self-determination and the achievement of independence in South Sudan, the vision was to build a state in South Sudan that would belong to all the people of South Sudan, a state that is built on this vision of an inclusive state and nation building project that include all the people, that transform all the 64 tribes and members of the tribal communities into citizens of this new state, equal citizens of this new state, building a state that would deliver the promises made during the struggle by the SPLM, a state that is capable to provide services to the people, that is capable to lead the people of South Sudan, transform their life and improve their living condition, providing peace, protection of their lives and properties and their freedoms, a state that is capable to provide social services like education and health and clean water, and providing developmental services into building infrastructure of roads and railways and river transport and provision of electricity and development of the economy. That was the vision. But more importantly, the vision of SPLM was to build a nation out of South Sudanese ethnic communities into a nation that is united, living in peace and harmony among themselves, where justice, liberty, and prosperity will reign in South Sudan, as we articulate that very clearly in our national anthem, which we sing today. That is the dream. That was the dream, and that is the vision of SPLM. Unfortunately, after the death of our late leader and founding father, Dr. John Garang Damabior, Commander Salva Kiir became our chairperson, and the leadership of SPLM under his leadership deviated from the vision of SPLM and lost the direction in the process of state and nation building, which led to the crisis in 2013. Basically, the discussion within the leadership of SPLM in 2013 was about how to return the SPLM back to the vision and how to correct our mistakes to come back to implement the vision of SPLM as articulated by Dr. John Garang Lumumbior. Unfortunately, um, our chairman took the direction of going outside the vision, and of course, he dismissed the SPLM government and arrested his colleagues whom were calling for the return to the vision, and took the country to war. The rest is history. And as a result of that, the vision or the policies that President Salva Kiir Mayardit followed are policies that are against the SPLM vision and contrary to the SPLM vision and objectives, and led the country to where we are today, a deep national crisis, a serious economic crisis, because the system that he established was a system that was focused on looting the state and building groups and cartels around himself that are only focused on looting the resources and making the state lose all these resources instead of achieving any development or any economic development and growth to a state that is literally captured. This is the result and the outcome. That is what we are living today in South Sudan, and it is a crisis that we need to focus on how to bring back the South Sudanese state to the path of state building. That is to say, building a state that is viable, capable to deliver public goods to the citizens. And also the ideology that has been pursued since the vision of SPLM was left, the vision that was calling for building a nation out of all the 64 tribes. The ideology became that of tribalism and regionalism, which resulted into dividing the people of South Sudan along tribal, ethnic, and regional lines, and also policies that are marginalizing women, just like in the situation in the old Sudan. So the South Sudan we have today is a very old, divisive South Sudan that is in crisis. And we need to get out of that by returning to the real vision of SPLM, or by making South Sudanese come together to address all these crises, unite themselves, and agree to a new social contract as a basis for state and nation building in South Sudan, where we can go in the direction of building a peaceful, just, and a prosperous South Sudan for all its citizens. That, in summary, is about the vision and the legacy of SPLM.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan, for taking South Sudanese back to the historical science in order to know what was the vision of the SPLM, the legacy which you have started, that we have country as independent state called South Sudan, and that was the visions and the focus of the SPLM. After achieving the country, something went wrong, whereby the leadership of the SPLM divided into different factions. And for that matter, General, you will let citizens need to know, after we achieved the independence as the country, and by then you were the Secretary General of the SPLM, did the SPLM sat down as the party to revisit the objectives and the aim of the SPLM, knowing that the target has been achieved? And once the target has been achieved, then people need to retreat, sit back, and to evaluate, re-amend the agenda or the aims. Now we are independent nation. Should we still carry the same mindsets of fighting against the enemy, or we need to change the objective of the SPLM in order to suit with the current world affairs? Did SPLM had a chance to do that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The SPLM from 2005, when we lost the leader of SPLM, Dr. John Garang de Mabur, who largely articulated the vision and campaigned for it over 21 years of struggle. We rallied around President Salva Kiir as our chairman. He was number 2. And the leadership decided that it was a very critical moment for the SPLM and for the country, as Sudan as a whole and South Sudan in particular. We could not afford to lose momentum, and the focus was to continue with the implementation of the peace agreement. And we elected deputy chairman of the SPLM, Commander Salva Kiir Mayardit at that time, to be the new chair of the SPLM. And he promised the leadership and the membership of SPLM, SPLA, that the SPLM under his leadership will continue with the vision of SPLM as articulated by John Garang, and that the SPLM under his leadership will be like a vehicle that has no reverse gear, so you will not go back and away from the vision. And that is what he said the day we were burying Dr. John Garang de Mabur in Juba, and in the funeral. And from there, of course, we proceeded to Khartoum, where he was inaugurated as the first vice president and president of the government of Southern Sudan. Unfortunately, after the independence, deviation were very clear away from the vision, and the chairman himself on our recommendation in the Secretariat, sent leadership teams led by members of political bureau and others from the National Liberation Councils. Teams went to the grassroots in all the 10 states, and they held meetings literally in all the counties in the country. And the outcome of these leadership engagement with the grassroots were very clear, as reported back by the team leaders. At that time, Dr. Riek Machar, as the first deputy chairman, was sent to Lake State. James Waniga was sent to Jungle State. Daniel Awed was sent to Eastern Equatoria. General Magni Poch was sent to Western Equatoria, I believe, and Kwalmanyang was to Northern Bahr Ghazal, and others to all the other 10 states, the rest of the 10 states. The reports that was compiled by all the delegates or the teams that went to the 10 states were almost the same from the membership at the grassroots and also from the people. That the SPLM leadership has lost vision and direction in the process of state building, and there was need to return to the vision and to reorganize the SPLM and its leadership. And these reports were brought to the leadership and were discussed by the leadership in meetings chaired by our chairman, Salva Kiir, and resolutions were taken that include the need to rearticulate the vision and to develop policies that must be implemented by the SPLM governments at all levels, at the national level, at the state level. And indeed, these policies were also developed, and our leaders in the executive were required to begin implementing them and transforming them into policies, government policies, as well as our caucuses in the parliaments were also to use this as policy framework for legislation. Unfortunately, while we were engaged in the discussions and preparation for the third national convention, rumors started to go around where our chairman and president was also talking that he would not be vying for leadership, and he was preparing to retire. And he talked to a number of members of the leadership at that time. So the issue of succession and leaders stepping forward to express their readiness to vie for leadership also came to the fore. Dr. Riak, myself, Mama Rebecca Nyandeng, James Waniga expressed interest for the leadership of SPLM come the third national convention. Unfortunately, Chairman Salva Kiir, I think, had a change of mind, and or he was not serious about the talk of retiring. I don't know what exactly is the fact about it. This will be left to history, or maybe if this come out from his memoirs, if at all he is thinking of making them available, the truth will be known then. And the agenda of reforms and return to vision was marked with you can call it power struggle, though it was really more of intention to vie for leadership and to seek to be elected come the third national convention or election in 2015. And but with this discussion, unfortunately, violence was introduced by President Salva Kiir and took the country to war. Dr. Riak and others reacted to this by also rising up in arms and waging war against President Kiir and the state at that time. Of course, President Kiir came out and said that there was a coup attempt. There was no coup. Nobody was planning any coup, not even Dr. Riek Machar or ourselves, whom were detained and arrested. And this was proven in court when we were taken to court. But anyway, the country was thrown into a civil war, very devastating. And unfortunately, that civil war took tribal lines and also massacres of our population in Juba were carried out, very unfortunate, and that divided the nation, and deep wounds were inflicted on the nation itself. And we need to heal those wounds through serious reconciliation if South Sudan is to emerge stronger and united once again. That is what happened, and that is what divided the leadership. And what got consolidated was an agenda of state capture by cartels, and those cartels were built around President Salva Kiir. They are actually the real force that is ruling and that have captured the South Sudanese state since up to today as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan, for explaining what went wrong and how the SPLM decided and actually came together to revisit the visions, the aim, and the objective of the SPLM during the struggle. And then things did not went well. until we went into deep crisis. Thank you for that. In brief response, General Pagan, somebody asked a question here, of which that questions will be pulled up later on during the show, if you don't mind the team in the studio. We really need you, General Pagan, to speak briefly about who was Dr. John Garang. After Dr. John Garang died, then the whole leadership of the R-SPLM under the President Salva Kiir, from 2005 all the way to 2011, after independence, R-SPLM was moving, according to we other citizens, was moving in the right direction. And unfortunately, in 2013, which you have mentioned before, that there were candidates aspiring to contest, and then that did not sit well with your chairman. So that is the only thing that triggered everything. But assuming if Dr. John Garang was alive until we gain independent, would things would have been different, or things would have not changed? Or would some of you would have been having actually aspiration to contest in leadership of the R-SPLM or not? Tell us a brief story about Dr. John Garang. Who was he, and what was his main focus? Was it to unite the whole Sudan, to have separate South Sudan, and after separate South Sudan, then what next? Thank you.
Dr. John Garang de Mobir was born in 1945, according to what I heard from him around that time, and of course died in a helicopter crash on the 30th of July 2005, just 21 days after he became the first vice president of the Sudan and the first president of the government of Southern Sudan at that time. John Garang was an orphan. His father and mom died when he was very young, and his cousin took him to school in Tonj, and from Tonj he went to Busiri, from Busiri to Rumbek, and left the country when Rumbek Senior Secondary School was closed, when they protested in early 60s, and he continued his secondary education in Tanzania, and from there got a scholarship to United States of America. I studied in Iowa, studied economics, and later on went back to South Sudan, rejoined the Anyanya movement, and was absorbed as a captain in the Sudanese army. The Sudanese a scholarship to study his master's and PhD in United States of America. He got his PhD in agricultural economics and came back to Sudan and was a lecturer in the University of Khartoum, Faculty of Agriculture, as well as being in the headquarters of of the Sudanese army. He was a colonel in the Sudanese army and deputy chair of the military research institute. And from there, he was organizing within the former Anyanya soldiers and officers to bring change in the country because the Sababa agreement was not being implemented well. In the end, it was the Sudanese army that attacked the two battalions, 104 and 105, and he decided to rebel by that time and cross the border to Ethiopia, where he regrouped the forces there, and together with other um, leaders like Uncle Joseph Uduho, Uncle Akoratem, and Uncle Gaitut were former ministers in the government of South Sudan who also rebelled at that time, and they formed the first leadership of the movement. In the beginning, of course, there were disagreements. In the end, Dr. John emerged as the leader of the movement. What I could call as a difference between Dr. John and other leaders that emerged in South Sudan and in Sudan is that he was able to put forward a clear vision of what was wrong with the Sudanese state and how best to build a stable, viable Sudanese state capable of managing diversity and building a country that would provide equality to all Sudanese on the basis of what commonalities that they have, being Sudanese as the most important commonality. That vision is what differentiates John Garang from all the Sudanese and South Sudanese leaders. And probably this is the most important contribution and legacy that John Garang left to us. It was a very clear vision as a strategy and as a theory that can address the crisis of the Sudanese state, which is applicable to the South Sudanese state, which separated from it. And actually, had it not been because of this vision, even South Sudan would have not become independent. South Sudanese struggled to become independent, but they did not have a clear strategy or a vision how to achieve that. The New Sudan vision articulated so well how to build a state and how states can also divide if these principles are not respected or are violated. And that is the greatest contribution that John Garang had provided to the Sudan, to the Sudanese people in the Sudan, both in the north as well as in the south, and for South Sudanese as well. Now, for us, if South Sudanese can clearly study this vision that has been articulated by John Garang, we will be able to build a viable, peaceful state in South Sudan. If we fail to appreciate what John Garang has contributed, the South Sudanese state also will disintegrate and will collapse. It is already in crisis as we speak now because of failure to follow the vision that was articulated by John Garang. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan, for elaborating and also brief the general public on who was Dr.
I'm
John
not.
Garang.
I'm not
You're not
hearing
hearing
you.
me?
Yes, I'm not hearing you well.
Sorry, I think there is issues with the connectivity or the
Yes.
network, I guess. Am I
Now
clear
you're
now?
clear.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for actually reminding citizens about the biography of Dr. John Garang and why Dr. John Garang chose the path of unity, which was New Sudan vision, that for inclusive of all Sudanese despite their different religions and different tribes. And through that, according to your explanations, Garang used that to capture the attention of all South Sudanese, not Southerners only, in order to achieve the common purpose, which granted us independent nation. Thank you so much for that. Let's move to the current affairs of our country, Gerald Pagan. Citizens are wondering what is happening between the all-out group and the government in South Sudan. Since the peace talk has been shifted to Kenya, Nairobi, are there some of the steps that were taken between you and the government of South Sudan and the President, Dr. William Ruto? And if there are, kindly can you brief the public or update us or what is happening? Because citizens need also to be on the same page to know what is happening. Thank you.
As we discussed last time, the government of South Sudan. Sorry, somebody is calling me. As we discussed last time, the government of South Sudan walked out from the Rome talks, and President Kiir took the initiative late last year in December and requested President Ruto to mediate between the government, the reconstituted government of national unity, and the South Sudanese non-signatories opposition movements. And on the 5th of January this year, 2024, President Ruto wrote letters to us. I received a letter from President Ruto, as well as my colleagues in the non-signatory opposition movements, where President Ruto informed us that he has accepted the proposal by President Kiir to mediate between us and the government, and he wanted to inform us about this and seeking our acceptance for his mediation. All the leaders of the non-signatories wrote to President Ruto accepting his mediation, and President Ruto suggested that his government would be ready to engage in pre-mediation consultations, to engage in consultations before the talks. And the government of Kenya, President Ruto, sent a team to Juba and engaged the government in these pre-mediation consultations. They discussed with the government the proposed framework for these talks and a roadmap. We are informed by the government of Kenya that they would want to engage with us from the middle of this month in discussions, in pre-mediation consultations. There is discussions about the mediation itself, how it will take place, and all that. So we are waiting for the invitation by the government of Kenya. I understand the government of Kenya is going to meet with some of our opposition movements in Rome on the 11th of April, and we wait for these consultations before the talks could start. One other major development of that is that last week, President Ruto appointed General Lazarus Simbewo as the chief mediator, and Ambassador Muhammad Guyu as the assistant mediator to General Lazarus Simbewo. And this is a very good development because General Simbewo, was the chief mediator who mediated the CPA, which resulted to the affirmation of right of self-determination and the independence of South Sudan. So that is a good development in that sense. We congratulate him, and I'm sure all the parties will work with him, and he will facilitate the resolution of the crisis and the conflict in our country so that we can rescue South Sudan. So this is what I can say about it. So we expect these talks to start sometime in May or in June. I don't know exactly when. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan, for updating the citizens in regard to the peace talk. And indeed, Dr. William Ruto has done what citizens were expecting out of him. Appointing somebody that has already knowledge or history about South Sudan is a good thing. It will do just to the discussions, and it will bring both parties together. Thank you so much. To our viewers, we are almost running out of time. Our interview is intended to be for 1 hour. And unfortunately, we still have one question which have not yet been covered. But I will ask Gerald Pagan in order to comment on it. Even if it will mean we'll arrange another show for it, then we will do that in either within this week or next week. And the issue is about elections, Gerald Pagan. The elections is a vast topic. It actually includes the issue of crisis, which is the economic crisis in the country, the funding of the electoral process, the constitutions, the parliaments, the peace negotiation between the government and the whole out group which you belong, and the time frame. So all this is a huge topic. To me, on the side of Lagos State media, we think we should refer it to next show so that we start on this topic and end on it. And before we refer it, I will give you a chance to at least give us overview of what you think. Are we going to have election or not? And if not, then what will happen?
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a question about why did President Ruto wrote to us individually as the leaders of the political parties. This is only a question that President Ruto can be the only one who can answer. We don't know, but of course we are an alliance of different political parties. So he chose to write to the various leaders of the movements. There's nothing wrong with that, and we actually, when we received those letters, we met all of us together and agreed to respond to President Ruto, and so there's no problem with that. We can be addressed individually or also collectively. There's no problem. But he chose the path of addressing the letters to individual leaders of the various opposition movements. As for elections, I don't think the country is ready for election. First of all, the conditions for elections, the prerequisites for elections are not met, as the peace agreement itself. The peace agreement even is not implemented. And the parties to the article and all the parties in the country are not prepared for elections. It is only the SPLM and government that is talking about elections and being ready for elections and campaigning. But if you look to the activities of SPLM itself, the SPLM in government as a party is not even ready for elections. They have not begun the holding of their congresses and convention. They started a process of seeking endorsement for President Kiir as their candidate for the presidency. That is the only thing. Even that, they have stopped it. Only they went to Bahargazal, to Wau, for Bahargazal states as a region. And they were to go to Malakal for the Upper Nile region. That one is stuck somewhere. They are not able to complete it. And they have not gone to Equatoria. We are in April, and one single activity, they are not able to complete it, which is to seek the endorsement for their top candidate or candidate for presidency. The other congresses for the selection that will lead to the selection of their candidates for commissioners is not done, of the counties. The state congresses which will elect their candidate for every for candidates for governorship are not done, and also for the state assembly, their candidates for National Assembly. All this are not done, and you are talking of December, in less than 8 months for them to go. When will they complete this? So you can see that even the SPLM in government is not ready for election. They are only talking. That is one. But also, before you talk about conducting elections, you need to have a permanent constitution which will define the system of government and the position that even you organize elections for. These have to be made clear by the permanent constitution. And it is the permanent constitution, after it is adopted, then the parliament is dissolved, and the country then prepared for elections. Look at the National Election Commission, which has been reconstituted, and they have requested, of course, they were supposed to have a budget. The budget for election should have been adopted by the parliament in the previous budget. It was not there. They created a supplementary budget, which is even not funded. And that even will only cover less than 25% of the cost of running elections. So and even that is not available for the National Election Commission. It is clear that the National Election Commission is not prepared to conduct election, to organize election all over. They have no offices at the state level. Even their office at the headquarters in Juba, they have not paid rent for that office, leave alone having a budget to buy the necessary material for election, to transport this and all that. This is not there. But even much more than that, the constituencies are not demarcated. And the electoral system, in terms of geographical constituencies, and as well as also party list, proportional representation, all these are not organized. So the talking about election is just a talk. Nobody is ready and prepared for it. And as the reconstituted government of national unity formed on the basis of RSIS, it is now running out of time, and the parties are not agreed. They have now decided to go and talk on what to do, whether there is going to be elections or no election, whether they are going for another extension or not. This is the context and the situation we are in. This is a major crisis. And within that, and with all this uncertainty, you have another crisis that is looming. You referred to rumors before that are going on, and deployment of foreign troops into the country, and some people within the circles around President Kiir talking about taking over in a way that is even violating the hierarchy of the SPLM. uh, uh, and uh, and having conflict there. There is even a danger of an implosion within the SPLM-IG itself. These are realities that we have today. These are all aspects of the crisis, the political crisis that we have in the country, where the Artigono is coming to an end. The future is not known, is not clear. What are we going to do? This Artigono itself is going to lose legitimacy by December, and they cannot do another extension. Yet they are not prepared to hand over power to the people as per the agreement. In my view, this political crisis, which is threatening with the collapse of the state, can be addressed if we take the Kenyan mediation as an opportunity to engage in a very serious national conversation to rescue the country from this deep national crisis that we have. I believe the Kenyan mediation could be a process to organize an inclusive roundtable conference, inclusive in the sense that you can have an opportunity in Kenya to bring in all the parties in the government and in the opposition, outside the country and inside the country, our religious leaders, bring in our traditional authorities, chiefs and kings and chiefs, bring in our civil society leaders, bring in our women leaders, bring in our youth leaders, for all South Sudanese stakeholders to come together, develop national consensus, agree to a new social contract that will be a basis for building our state and our nation. That agreement on a national project for state and nation building is a necessity, and this will take us out from the danger of our state collapsing because of possible implosion from within, or simply collapse as a result of the political and economic crisis that is engulfing the country today. It is time for South Sudanese to come together. And that is the only way. Shortcuts will not solve this problem. Attempt by small groups to take power in an unconstitutional manner without agreement by all the stakeholders is very dangerous. It is risky, and it may plunge the country to a major disaster again that we cannot afford. Our society is in serious crisis, humanitarian. We have global warming. We are already a victim of that as a society. We have hunger all over the place. We have 70% of our population are displaced. That's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan, for summarizing it, actually the whole overview of what citizens and the viewers were expecting out of you. Literally, the world is in crisis, and if we don't come together, the citizens or the people of South Sudan, to speak one-on-one, then believe me, even the world who seem to helping South Sudanese will no longer be there to help us, because they're dealing with the major issues more than the South Sudan itself. If you
Absolutely.
look at the whole world crisis now, the fighting in the Middle East, in the eastern part of Europe, all these contribute to a major economy
Sudan
is
has collapsed just next
Sudan
door.
is at exactly, and Sudan collapsed recently at our doorstep, and also even Congo is always on that end, and people are not even talking about it now. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for summarizing it. Let me yield it back to the team in the studio, Abraham Adin Majak. If there is questions, look at them critically, pull up one questions for Gerald Pagan to wrap it up. And if there is no questions, then we'll give Gerald Pagan a chance to give us his last remark before we end our conversation. Abraham Adin?
Yeah, I think a joke we can give General Pagan last remark. We read out our time, so we don't need to pull up any question at this time. So let General Pagan go ahead with the last remark. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gerald Pagan, we have reached to the limit of our time, which we agreed before, and also to give our viewers a chance to go and do some other things. You will give us your last remark. What is your message to people of South Sudan? What is your message to the government of South Sudan, jointly with the government of Kenya? And then you conclude your remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Really, I would like to appeal to all the people of South Sudan that our country is in a deep national crisis. This crisis is in all aspects of our life. We have a major economic crisis as a result of the policies that have been pursued since independence, policies of allowing cartels to capture the state and loot the resources, public resources, whether they are oil money through fictitious projects that are only meant to siphon away public resources and corrupt deals and contracts, or non-oil revenues from the collections of taxations and custom duties in the border. Much of it is not being remitted to the finance authorities, to the Ministry of Finance, and much of it is being spent outside the budget. This has led to this serious economic crisis, and now with the threat of the stoppage from time to time of the flow of oil because of the war in Sudan, and even the conflict in Sudan by itself is a serious blow to the oil industry because most of the inputs for the production of oil used to come through Port Sudan, and it is now difficult for this to continue, and development of alternative sources to bring in inputs to develop the oil industry or to transport the oil to the international market. Alternative to Port Sudan is not easy to achieve, and this has resulted to the loss of the purchasing power for the citizens because the South Sudanese pounds is losing its value increasingly. Hyperinflation has set in, and this cannot be solved by changing ministers of finance because any minister of finance will not be able to have the tools necessary to bring change. And it is also difficult to deal with the system of cartels that are used to siphon away the resources from state in projects which are not serving the citizens. There's need for a real overhaul of the way resources are being managed. There is a need for a new system to address this economic crisis. The country is also in a major humanitarian crisis. More than 70% of our population are in danger of starvation, and without humanitarian aid, they cannot survive. More than 70% of the population. This is a major crisis. And we, South Sudan, is also in a environmental crisis because of the pollution of the areas where the oil is being produced, and this is affecting the lives of our people and the lives of their livestock as well. This is a major problem. We have climate change.
I think Gerald has frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen. Yeah, network. Yeah, network issues.
To the
Yeah.
viewers, we apologize for the interruptions. Let's give him like 2 minutes to see whether he will log in again. Once he comes, he will be in a position to close his.
And another thing too, we've been experiencing attack. Somebody is trying to attack when he's talk. So I try my best so that I can stop the attack. But yeah, somebody is doing hacking so that he can.
Actually, we have experienced that in the studio. There is a sound that always pop up once Gerald Pagan is about to respond to the questions. To our viewers and to the persons who might be attempting to attack the show or the Lagos State media, kindly we appeal to you, don't do that. It's a bad thing. We other citizens, we have a chance on the platform such as this to bring people together so that we can listen to their views and have a fair judgment. And if we don't have platforms such as this and other media platforms, then we will not be in a position to use the technology adequately. Let's utilize the technology. And by utilizing it, this is one of them. So please, stop attacking the show. And if you have anything to discuss or to tell people of South Sudan, you are not, nobody can hesitate to ask you or even to welcome you. You have a time to come, speak, and share your thoughts with the people instead of using technology to attack the show. That's what I can say to Abraham Adid, but otherwise, we are not happy with that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so they will not be getting away with it anyway. So thank you. We will try our best to stop that. While we're waiting, so for a few minutes, I think if he come back, he can conclude his remark. Let's
You say we are free. I need a list to give you more, you better. You sit all. You say we are free.
Meanwhile, you can.
I need a list to bash you more, you whisker. Ayan. Jana Junubi ayan. Mafi gurus, isim giwasha shedi. Oh, Jian. Jana Junubi Jian. Was to be late, Umakulu Elefadur. Anataban, since 2011, Ladiasa, same level today. Anataban, 21 years, fighting freedom, and we are fighting ourselves today. No one is safe on Emily Road. No one is safe on Juba to Tereke Road. Oh. Dead bodies recovered on the river nights. Only God knows when the killers will be found. Oh no. Land grabbers everywhere, the youth are dying on the streets. We were finished from the bullets of the unknown gunmen and cattle raiders. Ayan, Jana Junubi Ayan, Mafi Gurus, Gisan Giwaja Shedi. Oh, Jian, Jana Junubi Jian, the was to be led, Omakulu Elefatu. Anataban, since 2011, Ladiasa, same level today. Anataban, 21 years, fighting for freedom, and we are fighting ourselves today. No, if this time for everything, where is time for our peace? Oh Lord, if this time for everything, where is time for our peace? We prayed for this country. Oh, school fees, and I'm a we want to soon. My dad is at Tacoma, the university Tacoma. Omon, bigger garden. Yeah, the promise of free education by Dr. Johnny Scott. Anataban, city sure, Mavi may allege you shabby. Oh, Wanataban, Sabasur, Mavi may allege Usasa Suku. Oh, Anataban, since 2011, same level today.
Sorry, Gerald Pagan. Welcome
Yes.
back. Yeah, the internet really was not good, and that's why you froze and then you dropped off. Can you give us your closing remarks? And then we'll end the show. Thank you.
Yeah. So what do we do? What do we do now?
Yeah, continue.
No, you fine. You just
from
continue.
where you stop with your closing remark.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I
you were
was
talking
saying
about the
that this
national
crisis
crisis.
in
Yes.
the global warming has subjected South Sudan into a major environmental crisis, which is resulting into floods and drought, as well as also unexpected heavy rains that happens in a very short time and very irregular, which makes it very difficult for our farmers to rely on. And therefore, we need to deal with all these crises in all various aspects by coming together and developing a national consensus and reach a compromise to rescue our country and to build our country in this very difficult time that we are going through. And as you mentioned, Majok, earlier, that the world we are living in today is a world that is also in crisis. And we are moving to a very dangerous period of our international system, which is characterized by major power conflict and competition and tensions, with the war in Ukraine and with also the tension between United States of America and China. So these major powers are busy with all their problems. We need to take care of ourselves. This is not a time that we can continue to be in crisis. We need to solve those problems and do all what we can by ourselves, fix our country, and begin dealing with all these problems that we are facing. From global warming, look at the level of the heat that is affecting our people, including schools have to be closed because it is too hot for the children. This is not a normal time. This is not a time for us to be divided. This is not a time for us to be fighting among ourselves. This is a time for us to sit down and agree and rescue the country and agree on a system that is efficient and effective to manage all these crises and manage the affairs of our country. We must agree to new strategy on how to build our state and our nation in this environment of problems all around us and within our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan. To our viewers, permit me on behalf of Lake State Media to say thank you so much for always tuning in to come and listen to our viewers, to our guests rather, and also be active to ask some questions to our guests. If you asked a question before and we did not pull it up for Gerald Pagan Amum to answer it, it's simple because we are running out of time. And most of you have witnessed the interference of somebody who want to attack our show or our page. We apologize for that. Next time, we'll still try to pull up your questions, and that is what make it meaningful for you to come and watch, is to ask questions and listen to the response from the guests. On the other note, permit me to give thanks to Gerald Pagan. On behalf of Lagos State Media, we don't take it for granted. You always take your time, despite your busy schedules, to come and talk to South Sudanese. As Lagos State Media, we are open to everybody, and our best interest is to make sure we link our politicians, our political class leaders, our church-based leaders, and civil societies, activists, and community leaders together with the citizens, so that South Sudanese will not be affected by disinformation and miscommunication. Because information currently, with the current technology, can destroy the whole nation which within 1 minute or within one day. So we need to be very careful about that, and we are grateful for always coming here to speak to South Sudanese. Next time, we'll still reach out to you to come and speak to them, and we are happy. The peace talk in Nairobi will go on smoothly, and we will keep updating the citizens in that regard. Thank you so much.